Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we are continuing our journey covering films from the Seattle International Film Festival. We're back with our second one today. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about DJ Ahmet. Sarah, do you want to kick us off with an IMDb summary for DJ Ahmet?
Sure. A 15-year-old boy from a remote North Macedonian village escapes into music amidst parental expectations, societal conservatism, and forbidden love for a promised girl.
All right. Well, we're just so excited, I just want to say, to be watching films that are part of the Seattle International Film Festival. We covered the first one of our three where we watched The Things You Kill. That episode is out already by this point. So that was our first one. This is our second one. We're just happy to be with a bunch of people who love film as well here in Seattle.
Yeah, it's been such a fun experience. And I've been reflecting on the fact that both of our theaters for these showings were packed. Absolutely packed. And if one of these films was lucky enough to get a theater release, which both of them are very good and I think are worthy of seeing in the theater, if it were to make it to the theater, this is one that I would probably go see, and there might be like one other person in the theater. So it's so cool to be in a space where you can watch a film like DJ Ahmet and it's packed. Like, people were standing in the back of the theater because everybody wanted to see this movie. And that's just a really exciting experience. So yeah, so grateful to be here. It's been such a fun ride so far.
It's been so amazing. And we sat, I think, in the back row for both the screenings. And yesterday, before the movie started, when the lights dim and the glow of the screen comes on, it was so thrilling to just see a sea of heads in front of me. I never thought that seeing so many little round orbs in front of me would be so thrilling. But I think something about sitting in the back row too and getting just to look out and see everybody taking in the same experience together was so magical. I was thinking a lot about Cinema Paradiso yesterday right before the screening started, and just that feeling of a communal experience. It's just so nice. And I think the other aspect that I'll mention is that seeing a film like this, a lot of these indie films with people who love film, is kind of a different feeling as well. Because I feel like I've been in a packed theater for like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War or Barbie, which is still very exciting just to see the masses come out. But knowing everyone in this theater loves this medium together, I don't know. I've never had that experience before. The one other film festival that I went to was hosted by my college back when I was in college. And it was like 6 of us in a theater, and in our school auditorium. And so that was the last time I can remember being in a group where like everyone loved film together. But seeing a packed theater with film lovers, that's a different experience,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been so cool. And like, just even the experience of like waiting in line to get in and hearing everybody talk about like what they've already seen, what they're excited to see. Like, yes, we've heard a lot of people talking about Mission Impossible, some positive, some negative, which is always hilarious to listen to. But yeah, it's just been fascinating to be like in this world with people who love movies as much as we do.
Yeah. And I'm also really encouraged seeing how there's all ages that are coming out and showing out. There's a lot of the elderly who are like investing in culture and appreciating it. But I also love seeing just so many young people, so many families. Yesterday in line in front of us, there was a mom taking her son to come see this film together. So it's cool to see the range and the diversity of film-loving audiences here in Seattle. It's been so encouraging. It's been so encouraging because we lament all the time. Go see the movie in your theater. It's worth it. Go support your local theaters. But just to see that there is this group of people, this community of people that really love the thing we love is so encouraging. So Shout out to Seattle before we start this
Yes. Yes,
episode.
and SIFF, like, this has
And
been such a
Sif.
great experience. So, this is
Yeah.
our first film festival experience, and so this has been a great time. So,
Yeah.
if there is a film festival near you, consider checking it out because it's
Yes.
really a blast.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Okay, well, let's dive in. Let's talk about DJ Ahmet. I think I keep saying Ahmet, and I've also heard in the movie that they say Ahmet with the accent on the second syllable. So we might get it wrong here and there, and so wishwash back and forth between the two of them. But alas, what is your one sentence summary for this film?
My summary is, "Music can provide the perfect escape."
Yes, nice. I love that. I love that. That's really good. It is the perfect escape and necessary escapes. My one sentence summary is be a hot pink sheep in a world full of white sheep.
Yes, I'm really glad that you referenced the hot pink sheep because that's pretty fantastic.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic. Okay, well, let's share our high level thoughts about DJ Ahmet, and we won't spoil this movie quite yet. We're just going to share our high level reviews about this movie.
Yeah, I really loved this movie. I had so much fun with it. I think that this film what impressed me most about this film is that it is so funny and also has so much emotional depth. Like, I feel like a lot of times it's either a one or the other situation, and somehow this film is able to blend both together in a really beautiful way. And it really uses the coming of age story really, really effectively to not just explore Ahmet and what he's going through as a person, but also explore his family and the larger, like, societal dynamics that are there. And then just technically the sound design, the score, the cinematography, like, it is all utilized so well to really take us into his world. So I was just so impressed by this film on just every level.
Yes. I loved this movie so much. It tugged on every heartstring of mine. I found this film to be incredibly emotional, and I think that paired with the humor, actually, they both heighten each other more. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more too, but I loved that you hit on that point of the humor paired with the themes and the emotional storyline, and they actually fuel each other and make each other more saturated, more impactful, instead of competing with each other or feeling like there's tonal whiplash that we're experiencing. So there's moments where there's this really deeply touching moment, and then we immediately cut to the next scene and it's hilarious. It throws you right into the silliness of life and the chaos of life, but then right within the midst of that, we'll stop and fully breathe for a really emotional moment where we see our characters experiencing a lot. So I think they nailed it with that. I also find that the humor felt to me so accessible to very different types of audiences or preferences for humor. It's all in there, but our theater absolutely loved this movie. We got so many hoots and hollers and big chuckles from our audience, and I think about so many of the people in my life that maybe don't really follow film, and I think that across family members in different generations and friends that have different humor preferences, I really feel like a lot of people would love this, you know? And so, been thinking a lot about that too with this film is its appeal for the masses, I think, is very promising and quite large. And yet there's also these really important themes and points that the film is making around rural societies and the rise of technology and how that's challenging across generational divides, dealing with conservative society or values and feeling oppressed by them. And how do you break free? How do you find your voice? How do you build your life aligned to what you believe in and the boldness and the courage that takes? There's so much in here. And then, like you mentioned too, it's woven all together in the classic coming of age genre stereotypes. So that feels really familiar while also breaking out of those in certain areas to redefine it. So I have so many thoughts about like the romance that's at the center of this story as well. I think that that makes a lot of really interesting choices with that I think is going to be really fun to talk about as well. So on the whole, I just this movie is so great and has so much to say, and also I think has such mass appeal and connection with a wide range of audiences that feels really exciting because sometimes we watch these indie films and you're like, "I loved this, but I don't." I mean, it's very niche, you know, and you kind of have to give the disclaimers when you recommend it to people, but I would easily recommend this to anyone in my life, and that's kind of a feeling I don't really have often with films that also have just so much to say and so much meat here. So, loved DJ Ahmet. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, yeah. I felt similarly, and I think a lot of it has to do with that like universal humor and also like universal themes that are explored in this as well. Like, I mean, we are not teenagers living in Macedonia. Like, we are not sheep herders in a remote village, and yet there's so much in this story that is so relatable. And I'm just so impressed by the humor because, I mean, comedy is hard, number 1, just as is, comedy is hard. But I think comedy is also so, like, contextual, and so the fact that this is in another language, it's not in English, and yet it is absolutely hilarious. I find really impressive that it's comedy that works across cultures too, and I think that helps it have that broad appeal. It really does feel like there is something for everyone in this film in, like, a good way. Like, there's so much depth to it, there's so much good humor to it, there's just something for everybody to take away and enjoy from this film. So, yeah, I second everything that you said. This is such a great film, and I'm so impressed by it. I didn't expect it to be as good as it is.
Yes. Yeah. We are going to dive fully in now. Spoiler alert for DJ Ahmet if you haven't seen it yet. We're raving about it. So we highly recommend it. I'm so hopeful and wanting this film to get picked up and have a wide distribution, a strategy that it can really fly. Because I think that people would love this. I maybe it's going to figuring out the marketing and getting people butts and seats in the theater is one part of the equation. But I do think that anyone that goes, it's an amazing time. It's got so much for everyone, like you said. So we're hopeful that this will be more accessible and available to all of you to be able to watch. All right, so this is your spoiler. We're now diving fully in. What are some aspects or themes or moments in DJ Ahmed that really stood out to you, or you found yourself pondering a little bit more in the hours after? Again, I think it's again less than 24 hours since we've watched this movie yet again. So our thoughts are fresh, but yeah, what has really stuck with you in the past many hours since?
There's so much to, like, rave about with this film, but I think my favorite part of it is the sound design. Like,
Oh.
it is so good. Like, the way that the sound design is used to really immerse yourself in Amit's world, and there are certain points where he or it's him and his brother or him and his little crush will be listening to music together, and it's full and immersive and wonderful, and then the next shot will cut you out of that, and we'll hear it as if we were standing there with them, and obviously the sound quality is very different. And so there's moments like that all throughout the film where the sound design is used to just immerse yourself in Amit's world and get to see things as he sees them, and just seeing his imagination kind of go wild when he's listening to music, I think is just so special. So I love the way that the sound is constantly being played with throughout the film to really heighten everything that Amit is going through. And of course, then that pairs with some really cool visuals and cinematography as well. So all of those technical components coming together to really explore what he is feeling and how he is escaping from his world into music, I think was just so beautiful and so well done.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so good. They make for some really funny moments every time, as you are immersed in the speakers with him and losing yourself in the music, and then you cut out as if you're just like a someone going out on a walk and you see these 2 kids, like, losing their minds, but you're not immersed in it the way that they are. It's so funny. One thing that I also think is really interesting about those sequences where we're with him listening to music, whether he's by himself or with his brother, is that we see this character expressed so differently from the other context where he's with his father. And I think that contrast adds so much of the emotional depth of this film because we feel the suppression. We feel how much he can't fully express and be himself in these other contexts with these other relationships in his life. And I think that's something that also makes the emotions of this story feel really meaningful. The opening sequence is a great example of this. The first time we meet him, he's at school, he's got the headphones in, he's laughing loudly with his mouth wide open with his friends, and there's a feeling of freedom. There's a feeling of being able to express without having to inhibit a lot of that emotion. And then the next scene, we see him with his father, and he's stoic, and he's within himself, and he feels like he needs to listen and he needs to be obedient. And there's all of that kind of like coming down of this authoritative figure in his life. And then we cut again to him being out in the mountains and being able to listen to music again. I think that constant contrast back and forth was an amazing way for some obviously really humorous moments, but also to express that feeling of there's context and environment, especially when you're young, where you feel the freedom to be you, and then there's some that you don't, and that can be really jarring. That can be really emotional. That's really taxing too. And I think every young person has probably felt that in some way or another. Maybe it's not at home, but maybe it's at school or at your different communities or at your clubs. Like there's these places where you feel more uncomfortable, and then there's places where you feel free. And finding where those are and why is a big part of figuring out how to navigate growing up. And so I love the way the sound design mirrors a lot of that as well.
And I love that it's, obviously, like, it's a part of the plot, and music is important to Ahmet and his brother, but we learn over the course of the film that it's not just that they, like, enjoy music, but it's that connection to their mom, and their mom has passed away. And so I love how that
Yeah.
unfolds as well, because we learn pretty early on that his mom has passed away, but then it's like little by little we understand just how important music was to their mom and how their mom gave that to them as well, and music was a form of bonding for mom and the boys. And so I think that that helps us to just, like, empathize with these characters and understand that it's not just music for music's sake, but
Mhm.
it's also this remembrance, and it's part of their grieving process as well, as remembering these happy times with their mom and, like, hanging on to some of that now that she's gone. So I love that, it there's so much silliness in the premise and so much silliness in this movie, but it's really rooted and grounded in grief and what it's like to, like,
Mhm.
process through that, and how do you continue to, like, honor and remember somebody's memory long after they're gone? Like, how do you continue to live out the things that they taught you after they're gone? So there's just, like, there's so much meat there. It's so much more than just, like, a kid who's having fun listening to music. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love when that reveal happens because the first section, it's great to just see how much they love music, and it is such a place of freedom and catharsis for them, and that alone is already so valuable, but there's a moment where we learn that detail, and then every other time when they're listening to music together, it means so much more. So that layer 1 of emotional depth of, like, this is a place of freedom for this young kid, now goes a little bit deeper and has a little bit more emotional stakes every time we see those same moments again with him and his brother, and we feel, no, this is part of honoring someone that they loved, and that adds, you throw that into the mix and just tugging on every heartstring. It's really, really beautiful. I also think it's really fascinating to see the way that music is used to also showcase generational divide and maybe delta between the older generation and the younger generation, specifically with Aya and her father. There's this really, like, pop electronic music that she's playing in her room, and early on in the film, we hear her father say, like, "What are you listening to? Turn that music off." And so music being a way to honor those that loved it as well, but also can be a separator and can be something that is policed or that is put constraints around, is also, like, an interesting use of the same theme in a different family. This music means something very different, and it's neat to see the way that Aya, over the course of the film, uses music and dance as advocacy, as making a statement, as self-actualization and declaration to her family against some of their conservative values and breaking free from that. So it's neat to see her journey going from feeling so constrained and limited by what she can and can't consume in her art forms that she loves to, no, this is me and I'm going to put it on full display.
Yeah, I loved that piece and that inclusion of music and dance as a form of resistance, and I think that that's really important. You know, we've seen especially marginalized people groups use art as a form of resistance, I mean, forever, and so it was just so cool to see that in this small way, and like you said, like, she is advocating for herself and doing it through song and dance very publicly, and I thought that that was just so powerful because I don't like, I think especially here in America, like, I listen to music all the time. I always have, like, music playing, like, it's just part of life, but I love being able to be taken into this other world where music actually has a very different meaning for these these teenagers and for this community, and the way that they are using that, I think, is really important to be reminded of. You know, like, music is great, listen to it, enjoy it, but also there's ways that people use music and art as a form of advocacy and resistance, and it's just a powerful reminder.
Yeah, yeah. And as survival, and as finding a place where you feel like this is you, and not being stripped away from all of those parts that make you you by expressing them and allowing this place and this outlet. I loved how much the camera is so focused on her face when she's doing that performance. Like, there's some great wide shots of the dance and some of the like choreo that they've come up with that is making her father very angry. But I just love that so much of that whole sequence is close-ups of her face and that look in her eye that is so defiant, so confident, so empowered by this moment. That actress does an incredible job conveying so much of that, of like, "F you, I'm doing this for me," you know? It's so great, and I'm just rooting for her. I'm like, "Yes, this is a moment where you are declaring who you are," and it's scary, and she can look out and see Ahmet in the crowd as that support, but this is for her, and that was really thrilling to see, and I love how much the camera allows that to come through fully in expressing that this is her moment, and she's been practicing and rehearsing for a long time up until this moment too. So I love that we even get even the lead up to that festival. So many moments where we see her practicing with her gals and just how much preparation has gone into how much this moment means to her. We really feel that on her face, and the close up camera really allows that to shine.
Mhm. Yeah, that's such a pivotal moment, and and maybe I missed it early on, but, like, I didn't realize, like, the weight of the dance until we were getting closer to the actual time. You know? I thought, like, "Oh, they're just practicing
Practicing.
silly little, like, TikTok dances because that's just a thing that people do, I guess. I don't know. I'm not on the TikToks. But I was just like, "Oh, that's just a fun thing that she's doing with her friends." But then, again, this movie is so intentional in unfolding things at a very deliberate pace, because then
Mhm.
over time, you realize, like, "Oh, no, this isn't just hanging out with your friends, doing a little
Mhm.
dance to post online. But this actually has a lot of meaning, and this is risky,
Yeah.
really. She's risking a lot by doing this, and I love how that unfolds as well, that, our perception of Aya and what she's going through and what she's doing changes, and we realize the full scope of her choices, and that we've immersed ourselves in this world for long enough to understand that that is a significant form of resistance, and there could potentially be some repercussions for what she's doing. And
Yeah.
I love that we understand the risk that she's taking by dancing. And then
Mm.
you're right, those close-up camera shots of her face, you see she knows what she's doing and she knows that it's the right step for her.
And we're in the audience like, "Yo, go, girl!"
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Wait, we have to share this little, like, theater going experience anecdote, which is she gives this whole long performance. I love how long that scene is too. We don't get, like, a snippet of the performance and then it ends. We actually really see the full, like, 2, 3-minute choreo that they've prepared, and so we linger so long in her performance in those close-up shots, it's great. And then they do their final pose, the people on screen are clapping, and our entire theater bursts out in applause for her in our theater, and I just thought that was so neat, just like that feeling of, "No, we've really been sucked into this screen, and we are there to and we are rooting collectively for her at with the audience as well." I just thought that was such a magical movie moment where it just instinctual, we all just started clapping out of desire to root for her, but also it feels like we're there too in the audience, sitting there watching her, rebel against her parents and advocate for herself, and that was kind of magical. I think there's movies that I've been to where people will clap at the end of the movie of like, "That was a great movie," but this was clapping for that character in our theater, and I just thought that was so magical and really fascinating.
Well, and what a testament to how immersive this film is, because
Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like you are there with
Mm.
these characters. You are going through this with these characters. And again, I don't live in there. I don't know what it's like to herd sheep. Like, this is not my world. I do not have any frame of reference for this context. And yet, I felt like I was there. And so, just shout out to all of those filmmaking techniques. And I think so much of that has to do with us going into Ahmet's world and then coming back
Mm.
out into the real world, and we're constantly going through that, like, ebb and flow, and the way that the cinematography and the sound really help us to feel what these characters are
Mm.
feeling and experience what the characters are experiencing. Just it helps you feel like you are right there with them, and I loved that moment too. I thought that that was so powerful. I don't know that I've ever had that happen to me in a theater like that. It was
Yeah.
really special, and so just shout out to DJ Ahmet for being such an incredibly powerful and compelling film.
Mhm. Yeah. No, absolutely. One other bit that I think was worked really well from, like, a narrative arc screenwriting perspective is she has this moment of advocacy, and then it doesn't work. I love that it doesn't work because sometimes it doesn't work, like, you think that this is going to be your big moment, her grand plan that she's hatched to get out of this wedding and get it canceled. Doesn't work. Her father is angry, comes up on stage, "I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. It's not gonna work. This wedding is going to happen." And so I love that she needs to go even one step further than she even thought she had to break free from the conservative systems and values that are being placed on her, and this life of a marriage that she doesn't want being placed on her. Like, she has to run away by the end of the film. And so taking this character even deeper into her convictions than we even expected, than she even expected, I think was also a really great screenwriting moment. There's a version of this film which also would have been really great. She does the whole bit. The father of the husband to be storms off. He's angry. The wedding's called off. Great. The power of art and music as resistance. But I kind of love that it's not always that easy. And we press our character once again to say, how will you break out of this system? How much can you take that audacious step to go and advocate for yourself? I think that that was a really great moment as well, because I'm also sitting there being like, "Is it gonna work or not?" And I kinda love that it doesn't that quickly and that easily, and there's one more big climactic scene that needs to follow what already feels like a really big moment. So, some great screenwriting, beats and pacing, and continuing to push the characters to more that I think happened in that ending. So that
And it's so true to life too, like,
yeah.
advocacy, resistance, like all of these things, it's not a one-time event, but it's
Yeah.
incremental change over time. It's a
Mhm.
marathon, not a sprint. And so I think that also shows how her thinking has to evolve as well, because it's not just like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this one thing, and then it's gonna be done and everything's fine." But no, it's a consistent effort over time, and I loved that ending bit because the cheesy ending of this film is that Ahmet and Aya, like, get together, have their little, like, cute teenage romance, the whole thing, but that's not what happens here, he does profess his love for her, but he does that in order to get her
Set her
free
free.
and let her escape, and I think that that is so much more beautiful and powerful than, "Okay, now we're gonna stay here and be lovebirds together." Like, he grasps enough to understand, like, "You can't stay here. This is not
Yeah.
safe for you, this is not good for you. You need to escape. So I'm gonna help
Mhm.
you have the means of escape." And I think that that ending
So good.
helps make this movie even more powerful. Like, yes, it's a coming of age story, but it's so much more than that, and I think that that
Yeah.
ending really helps to illustrate that.
So good. I love that subversion of the coming of age teenage romance because we walk that full journey for most of the film. It seems to go along that trajectory, and they do have their youthful kiss underneath the fireworks in the field. So we get the like satisfaction of seeing them both profess and both be aware of and receive each other's feelings for each other. But you're right, like, the ending is tragic, honestly, and it's also triumphant because and it's those things at the same time. They cannot be together, but they are both setting each other free for more and for greater. And that beautiful tragedy, that beautiful triumph, I think is like what makes that ending so emotional. And I think what's also notable is that you can see that Ahmet knows that that is the case when he makes his choice to play the music and disrupt the wedding and to create that distraction. He is aware. He's not deluded into thinking like they're going to call off the wedding and they're going to end up together. He knows the cost and he believes it is more than worth it for her best interest, for what's best for her. So it's truly such a selfless act. He puts himself in danger and is willing to sacrifice that so that she can go and be free. And that is incredible. I think the other aspect that I wanted to talk about with this romance storyline of this film is that so much of their connection, I think I've read and I think is played so differently from the typical teenage coming of age romance because we get to see for so long up until the point where they start to meet each other how much they both are dealing with. And so when they come together, it feels yes, there's the warm, fuzzy butterfly feelings, of course, but it also feels just like a fundamental human connection where they love the same things. They understand each other's oppressive environments. They can see each other beyond just I think you're cute. You think I'm cute. There's something a little bit more than that. They've kind of found a kindred spirit in a place that maybe they feel like they don't belong in the village, but they belong with each other. And I think that is so woven into their connection that made me buy into it and really believe in it. The actors have incredible chemistry as well, but I think that fundamental understanding of what they're both dealing with, and then when they come together, it feels like, "Oh my gosh, thank God there's someone in this dang village that's like me, that thinks like me." And the joy that comes with that, I think, is so much a part of their romance and their connection at a human level. And of course, there's all the like warm, fuzzy, youthful, falling in love bits as well. But more important than that, it's they found someone that feels like a kindred spirit in a place that they feel kind of like outsiders in.
Mhm. Yeah, we spend so much time, especially with Ahmet, just feeling alone and isolated, you
Yeah.
know? It's just him and his sheep for a lot of the film, or him and his little brother that he has to care for, you know? And so when he and I are able to bond and actually, like, spend time with each other, it does feel like a
Mm.
relief. It feels like a
Yeah.
moment of respite from just the mundane trudging through everyday life.
Yeah.
And again, this movie is so immersive because you feel that. You feel that release and that relief of
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay. We don't have to perform, you know, we don't have to be a certain way for his dad, you know, we don't need to be
Mhm.
taking care of the little brother, like, we can just be for a second,
Yeah.
and you feel that while watching the movie, and I think that that's really impressive that you feel what the character is feeling, and you feel that sense of belonging and connection with Aya, and that grows over the course of the film.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And that actor does an amazing job because for so many of the other sequences, even if they're like a later moment, he doesn't big teeth smile. He only does that in those moments, whether in the by the forest with Aya, where we almost see completely different facial expressions and joy being expressed from this character that we don't see in any other context. Even when he's being fun and silly with his brother, there's a different countenance that he has when he's with Aya, and I think that it signals for us too of like, oh, that relief of being able to find someone that the joy of finding someone that is like, "Oh my gosh, you too," is part of the human experience beyond romance. It's just connection, and that's all we long for, that's all we want, and when we find that, we advocate for it and we hold on to it, and I think that that feels far greater than the romantic crush aspect of all of this too, which I think is really notable and very well written into the story.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think that it's so important that it's more than just like, "Oh, I have a crush on you," you know? I think that is just indicative of the way that this movie is filled with so many different layers and so many different, like, yeah, layers of meaning, different themes, like, it's all woven in here. So, like,
Mhm.
on the surface, coming of age story, teenage romance, all of that jazz, but, like, there's so much to explore. There's so much depth to this film, and you see
Yeah.
that that's just their relationship is just one example of the depth that is contained in this.
Mhm. Mhm. One of the other themes and through lines throughout this film that I found really interesting definitely makes for some hilarious moments is the role of technology and the way that this very rural society with a lot of people in the older generation that the technology really is changing their village, but also the time it takes to build literacy is also shown and evidenced in this film. And there's some really great moments with the prayer calls where they're trying to use the technology to play the prayer calls through CDs that make for some just crowd pleasing moments. But I thought that there's there's very clearly a theme of technology in this movie. But what I found most interesting is that there's the contrast of that theme with the father who is taking the brother to see the healer. And I think that's actually essential and really rounds out this larger point or this dichotomy that the film's portraying around technology versus spiritualism, modernization, and the growth of these systems that we use that are incredibly evidence-based and all this kind of stuff, and contrasting that with in a rural village, the role that has been so prominent of spiritual practices, and how do we make sense of those things, like the clash of modernity with traditional things that have been passed down for generations. How do we reconcile with these things? And no one really knows. I love that the film doesn't also like figure it out for us, but there is such a clear contrast in how people are making choices, decisions, and how this is affecting how they think about choices they make in their life. So I really appreciate that it's not a huge plot point, but there is this consistent thread of we're going to take the little brother yet again today to the healer and tomorrow and the day after. And the presence of that is so important, I think, for making that point around technology impacting this remote village really land well. So I was thinking of that a lot after the film of technology, modernity versus spiritualism and kind of traditional customs and how we don't know how that all plays out, but it's definitely the clash that exists and how to weave them together and integrate them together is something we're still figuring out today.
I love that you put those things together, because with the healer business, I was thinking more about the ways that we all process through grief differently,
Mm.
and how the father wanted to control everything. And,
Mm.
his son is not speaking, so I'm going to make sure
Do
that he
something for
speaks, and I am going to, like, there's this sense of, okay, this terrible tragedy has happened. I need to retake control of my life, and I'm going to do this
Mm.
by going to the healer, going this spiritual route. And I love the way that in that family, they are each processing through that grief differently, because the dad seeks to control, the little
Mm.
brother just shuts down, and then Ahmet seeks
Yeah.
to escape. And I love that
Good.
we have this, like, full range of examples of how people grieve differently, and they don't understand the other at all.
Mm.
Like, and I found that to be really interesting. So even over the course of the film and finally
Good.
that, like, resolve and that reconnection between the family felt really natural and, like, appropriate.
Mm.
It was, like, appropriately joyful without everything being resolved, and showing how, like, we can processing through grief is a very long journey. That is also a marathon, and that will shift and grow, but we can also, like, grow in empathy for others who are also going through different things. So I loved how at least for me, like, all of those little visits to the healer just were like flashing red lights of, like, "Oh my gosh, this is the dad processing through grief in a really dysfunctional way." So seeing him finally, like, show some grace to his kids and, like, take those steps to reconnect with them, I thought was really, really valuable and really beautiful way to end the film.
I love how you pinpointed so crisply, well done, the ways that the 3 men are processing this grief and how they look so different, but I just thought that was, like, a really insightful point. I need to think about that more, but they do, and we as humans tend to fall into one or many or all of those buckets, and you even see that there's I think the father also expresses it in the form of anger and impatience too that we get to see, especially in the first half of the film. So that's definitely a common theme. I love that while the father is very difficult for a lot of the movie and is totally missing his son in a lot of ways, you can also see how much, like, weight and burden the father has been carrying, and there's obviously the understanding that we have soon into the film around them losing their mother, so him losing his wife, but then also I think there's a constant conversation around money and how many sheep do we have? This sheep is gonna be worth a lot of money. There's a lot of shots of him counting money, and so it reminds me of the 400 Blows, actually, the French film where that role of money, I think, allows for maybe us as viewers to give the father a little more grace because he's in survival mode. It's stressful. He's trying to figure out how to feed and provide his family now just by himself without his partner in crime to do that. And so while the father is frustrating and definitely is coming down hard on his son for a lot of the film, and the implications and costs of that are very clear, there's also just like I think an empathetic lens that grows over time for the father. I appreciate that we got a redemptive arc for the father. I would have my one nit with this film, my one qualm where I'm like, I could do without that scene. I'm just gonna erase that from my brain, is the father cooks a beautiful meal for a breakfast for his son the morning after the big climactic scene. And there's such a reconciliation that they have the night before, and there's this beautiful meal, and the father's not there, which I thought was so cool because that is a form of expression of love and care. But then there's this really, like, grand reveal of these really expensive looking speakers, and I just could do without that scene, that shot, because 1, there's this whole theme around them really struggling to make ends meet, so I'm like, "Where did you get the money for these speakers?" 2, those speakers look too nice, okay? Like, they're massive. I'm like, "That's gonna cost a lot of money." But then 3, I think the point of reconciliation that was being made by the film was already made until that point, so it felt like, "Alright, we're really gonna lean into the feel good, cheesy, 'Oh, we know you love music, so we're gonna buy these really expensive speakers for you with money we don't have,'" to build that bridge. I think that, like, the even it's more realistic, I think, for those little bridges to be built versus this big, massive reconciliation at the end, so, I mean, this is a feel-good comedy, coming of age story, so I think they really lean into a lot of that, but I personally could do with a little less of the sprinkles on top with the ending speakers reveal. That's my one
So
qualm.
so I'm gonna tell you what happened in my headcanon, which maybe
Okay,
doesn't make sense,
love it.
but so my version is that Aya is actually the one that bought him the speaker, because when she's escaping, she takes all those coins, like, she takes money from her wedding, and she escapes, and so in my headcanon, before she gets on her bus or train or whatever to escape, she buys a speaker and drops it off at Ahmet's house and then goes about her merry way. So that's my headcanon. That probably doesn't make sense, but that is what I decided happened.
I like that version. Well, it's true. Well, you've picked up on a really interesting which is we don't actually know who it's from. My assumption it was father because reconciliation,
Yeah. It's the most logical choice. Yeah.
eggs. Yeah, but who cares about logic? We'll do what we want, Like this was her way to say, I
Mhm.
see what you've done. We share this love for this thing together. I will never see you again, but you will
Exactly.
always remember me with these very expensive speakers that are really nice. They were so nice. They had
So
lights
nice.
and
Yes.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so fun.
yeah. I like your headcanon better. I'm adopting that headcanon. It is injecting into my brain as we speak.
Amazing. Glad I could help with your one
Honestly,
nit about this film. We fixed it.
her coming back with the coins, buying it, dropping it off in the stealth of night is just as feasible as this father who does not have money buying it for him. So, it all works. We can do whatever we want in our headcanons.
Perfect.
It's the beauty of a
Yes, we
headcanon.
can,
The number one rule of headcanons is there are no rules, and logic
which is my favorite.
is irrelevant.
Excellent.
Yes. Okay, other big moments or things we wanted to mention before we wrap. Time is flying.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to, once again, the cinematography. I
Yes.
really loved the way that we're introduced to Aya, and it actually reminded me of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the way that we're introduced to Heloise, because
Mm.
with
Mhm.
with Aya, we don't actually see her full face for quite a while. Like, we
Yeah.
see the back of her head, we see some of shots of her, like, profile, like, we will see parts of her and parts of her face, but we don't see her for quite a while, and I think that that is so effective in building up, like, who is this mysterious
Mm.
person? Like, it makes us curious about who this person is. Obviously, we know that she's going to be important. We know that she's going to be the love interest, but I think that that anticipation is really, really helpful in building that curiosity in us. It's not just
Mm.
like, "Oh, there we go, romantic interest," but it's this air of mystery about her, and I think that helps us maybe understand Ahmet too because he doesn't know her. Like, who is this person that he, like, randomly meets and then runs away from, which is so funny. So I thought that that was so smart to not let us see her for a little while, to create that curiosity in us, and then when it's finally like, "Oh, we get a shot of her," it's so much more impactful.
Mm. Yeah. And again, puts us in the perspective and immersiveness of what Ahmed's mind is like, because it's so dramatic too. It's like slow-mo of her walking and the wind is blowing in her one wispy single strand of hair. That that single strand of hair, can we talk about for a moment,
Oh,
is
incredible.
doing work, dude.
Yeah.
I well, first of all, I'm like, I don't understand how they directed the wind to be so perfect because it flows. It flies in the wind so perfectly. I don't know what they did, but they figured out how to control Mother Nature somehow to get those shots. It's so great, but it also highlights how much when you are captivated by someone and you have your crush, every little detail about them feels magical, and I think the cinematography does an amazing job of like everything else fades and all he sees is her and she seems to be this like ethereal being that we can't really see clearly enough, but just the silhouette and this literal being that appeared in his village is exciting to him. And so the drama of it all, I think, also gets to be fully expressed in the cinematography. It's so good.
It
It's so
really
good.
is. It's such a great moment of, like we've been saying, like, just immersing us in what he is seeing and feeling, and he has
Yeah.
such a rich imagination, which I love how this film explores that. Because I also feel like if you are living in this very remote town and your job is to herd sheep,
Mm.
you would probably have a very rich imagination. Because like, how else are you going to entertain yourself? And so I love those glimpses into his mind and how we see the cinematography, the lighting, the sound, like everything will like change a little bit and we go into this kind of other world for a little bit.
Yeah.
I loved those moments. I thought that they were so strategically placed throughout to help us better empathize with this character, which I think helps make this movie so powerful.
It reminds me a little bit of what we talked about with that episode with Richie in season 2 of The Bear, of just, like, he is truly main character energy, and we get to see how larger than life every moment is for him. When Ahmet goes to the party in the forest for the first time, leading up until that, it's played like a supernatural horror thriller, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh, are we dropped into Robert Eggers' The Witch?" Like, what is happening here? Because it's so tense, but I'm sure for him, he's got his little light. It feels like, what am I about to stumble upon? What's happening in the forest that is larger than life and magical and fantastical, As a young kid, like that's what little moments feel like throughout your day. And so yeah, the imaginative aspect of his mind we get to really experience through the cinematography, through the music, through all of that coming together in a really powerful way. Um, One other, I guess, two quick shout outs that I wanted to give. One is use of color. It's very clear, very obvious in this film. The hot pink, the whole bit with the sheep is, I think, very obvious. But I think it actually translates and is aligned in the little details really well. So what the characters wear feel like such a signal of maybe, like, what they're looking to express or what they're interested in. So a lot of Ahmed's clothing is very, like, retro urban, and when Aya finally breaks free at the end of the film, when she's on the bus, she's wearing a jacket that has bright colors and like, checkered patterns that look so different from the red floral dresses that she's been wearing, and so just the way that fashion, colors, textures are so expressive and symbolize, like, what you're aligned to and maybe what you're interested and captivated in, I think is so fascinating. And I think what's also striking is that so many of those colors and patterns feel out of place in this incredibly rural small village and town where there's a lot that is organic and a lot of those colors aren't can't be made from natural dyes and things like that. So they're very much they look fitting in maybe an urban, more modern environment, and yet these characters, these young kids are like, "But this is me, and this is what I want to express," even though it looks so different from their environment. So I guess that visually also helps communicate how they're a little bit of fish out of water. They don't belong in their environments in the ways that maybe the other folks in the community do. So I thought the use of color, texture patterns in the clothing was really striking and very well used. My other quick little shout out is they're short little sequences throughout the film, but and they play to be these really funny moments, but I loved seeing the way that word spreads fast and everyone is talking about everyone in this small town. I feel like that's really relatable, whether you grew up in a small town or not. You know those communities where, like, everything you do is gonna get spread like wildfire. So when Aya's getting married, there's, like, a whole sequence of everyone being like, "Did you know that she's getting married? Oh, but that's so young, but that's how young we were when we got married." And then, like, that's old news. And I feel like that's really relatable and adds so much to the atmosphere and communicates so much about what the small town community is like and what these two characters are looking to break free from or be set free from. So I thought they serve such great dual purposes, made for some really funny moments, but also small town vibes, you know? It's real.
Well, and I think that even relates back to some of what you were saying earlier about, like, technology and,
Mm.
like, modernity and all of that, because that town gossip is the non-tech version of, like, going viral, you know? Like, so I love that there's that contrast as well, because we see Ahmet go viral as he's chasing sheep in the party, He didn't wanna go
Yeah.
viral, but he did, and so then we see also the town gossip happening around Aya and all of that. So I thought that those were really fun parallels to include with each other too, like,
Yeah.
this this need to gossip or share information or, share about, like, the latest and greatest thing is just a human trait that we all have, and so
Mhm.
I love that we see the technology version of that, and then we see the non-technology version of that, and both serve their purposes in this film.
Yep. Very much so. Very much so. Okay, any other last quick things before we wrap? Do we hit most of our main points?
Yeah, I think I also just wanna shout out the relationship with Ahmet and his little brother too.
Mm.
Like, I thought that that was such a powerful inclusion of, you know, the little brother is not speaking, but he's still happy. He's still, like, going about his life. He's still doing all of these things, and he loves his brother so much, and I feel like there's so many films about, like, sibling
Mm.
rivalry and, we love all the
Yeah.
drama that comes with siblings on screen, but I love that this is just there's so much tenderness and care there, and to see that between 2 brothers, especially a teenage boy and his younger brother, I thought was something really special and something that you don't often see on screen. So I appreciate that that is such a significant portion of this film, and we spend so much time with Amit and his brother as they're just going day to day, and even, as Amit and Aya, as they're developing their relationship, his little brother is there throughout all of it. Like, a lot of times they'll be having conversations, and the little brother is just sitting next to Aya, just hanging out, happy to be with them. So I just thought that that was really cool and an interesting change of pace that we don't usually see on screen.
Yeah, that's so true. It also helps really communicate quickly to us at the beginning of the film how intuitive and perceptive Ahmet is because his brother doesn't have to say that much, but he can understand how what that what feelings his brother might be experiencing and kind of like listen for them or notice them. So the sensitivity and awareness of just the emotional intelligence that Ahmet had, I think, is clearly established. And then I also just love the simplicity of what they share back and forth and then display for each other around just being there. Like sometimes I feel like it's so easy to make what love and what relationships mean feel really like big and meaningful and profound. But I love how simple it is and then how they choose to express that by just laying a hand on his shoulder when he needs it, when he's going through a tough time. So I just love the simplicity of that. I heard this quote recently that love is choosing to be with someone and just staying close. And I feel like that is so expressed in this film as well of love is just when things get hard, you're not alone. And just to be there is more than enough. And you get to see the way they do that for each other. You know, all of those times where Ahmet is like fighting to be in the car to go to the healer with his brother when he knows his brother's getting more and more uncomfortable with it is his way to do that. And then when Ahmet is going through a tough time, the brother just stroking his curly hair just meant so much, you know, and we feel the weight of that. And it's as simple as that. And I love the simplicity. It's really great. Love that.
Ugh, it's so good. All of those little touches were so intentional, and they just tug on every single heartstring. Like, oh my gosh, I love the way that this film is so deep because even with
Yeah.
just the brothers, because like when they're
Yeah.
goofing off and having so much fun together, like you can't help but smile. Like their joy is infectious through the screen. And then in those like really tender moments, it just, man, gets you right in the feels. So
Mhm.
this film is so layered and has such, I don't know, an understanding of how we process through emotions as people and just provides such an easy on ramp for us to be just sit in the emotions of our characters. Ugh,
Yeah.
it's so good. This movie is
Yeah.
so good.
It's so good. It tugs on every heartstring. You will laugh, you will cry, you will be in awe, you will be stimulated to think about so many aspects about our society and modernization and rural communities and everything under the sun. And also, you'll just feel everything all at once. Everything everywhere all at once. in this- so, it,
Except not overwhelming, I think is what's really impressive.
yes,
Like,
and
there's
not
so much
cheesy,
and
and
not
not
cheesy.
cheesy.
Yes. Yeah,
It's so
there's so much
easy to
in
be
this.
cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much in this, but it never feels overwhelming. Like all of these different themes, they coexist within each other. They support each other. Just like you were saying earlier, the comedy and the emotions, they support and highlight the other. And I think
Mhm.
that just, man, like that's such a hard task to accomplish. And this
Yeah.
film absolutely nails it. Like, wow, there's so much meat here. This is one that I really can't wait to watch again because
I know.
obviously it's just so fun, but also, like, I wanna see more of those connections that I maybe missed the
Mm,
first time because
mhm.
there's so much here. Like, what did I miss? Because I was just having such a great time, you know?
Yeah. So good. So good. Oh my gosh. We absolutely adored DJ Ahmet, if you can't tell. We're raving about it, all right? And we're so excited, hopeful, we're rooting for this film. We want more people to see it. Get this in theaters, people, somehow, so that one, we can go see it again, but then two, more people can go see it, and Sarah and I will drag everyone in our life to go see this movie, and they will have a great time. So, yeah, we just it's been so exciting. We feel like we've been feasting, truly here at, the Seattle International Film Festival. We can't wait for our last one that we're gonna go see today. So, we'll definitely be reviewing that film as well. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Movies and Us. Our name sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review letting us know if you're excited to see this film, if it's maybe playing near you in local festivals, we'd be so intrigued to hear if you have any thoughts or if this is on your radar. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at moviesanduspod, or email us at moviesanduspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us. We will be back very soon to discuss our third and last film that we're going to be getting to see through SIFF, and the film is called Slanted. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.